All these people fishing with nets, and then it all dries up and all those fish die and they're gone and no one knows about them, and then suddenly it rains again and there they are. It really is a remarkable aspect to the Ifunja, and I venture to say with some certainty that there is no other drainage system like the Kuvlai anywhere in the world.
If you enjoyed that video and would like to learn more about the Ifunja, Dr. John Mendelsohn co-wrote a book called A Profile and Atlas of the Kuvlai-Etosha Basin, all available at the Gondwana collection.
The International University of Management, a Namibian university dedicated to its people's future, a hub of abundant opportunities.
We are IUM for life. We are IUM.
Welcome to this evening's edition of Today on One. I'm Isai Sipunga. In the news tonight, Mushinde Kachiwa set to be sworn in as Ovaherero Paramount Chief. Trade Ministry and Forum engage in formal sector on Buy Local Grow Namibia. Refrigeration, a superstar in our lives. Local communities encouraged to safeguard the country's forest resources. And Roundup, Business on One, Comments Corner, Sports and the weather. First up, Professor Mushinde Kashiwa is expected to be sworn in as the Ovaherero Traditional Authority Paramount Chief at the annual Ovaherero commemoration that will take place at the end of next week in Okahanya.
Kashiwa announced at a press conference held today in the capital that he is expected to be sworn in as the Ovaherero Traditional Authority Paramount Chief at the annual Ovaherero commemoration that will take place on the 15th to the 17th July 2022 at Okahanja. However, Kashiwa's claim to the chieftaincy has been disputed by former chairperson of the Ovaherero Chief Council, Vipwera Kapoor.
I want to inform you that this storm is over, and there should be no doubt in your mind that I am the Paramount Chief. I know this has gone on for some time in the newspapers, sometimes referring to it as, to me as a disputed Paramount Chief or a Kachiwa faction and so on. But the Ovaherero Chiefs Council has nominated me in December, designated me thereafter, and elected me at the Senate through an established process of the organization, and as part of that process has taken me through the holy fire rituals to link my being of myself with the ancestors. Now, the weekend of the 15th to 17th July, the symbols of power will be handed over to me at the Okahanja, where I shall then give my inaugural speech. And this is a symbolic process signaling the supremacy of the paramountcy as a commander-in-chief of the traditional flags and the overall leader of the Ovaherero people globally. The Ovaherero leadership has never been without challenges, more so during the transitional period, over the past 100 plus years. We have always overcome those challenges. Thus, the minor challenges that are being thrown at the authorities are manageable and they are under control. Most importantly, we shall remain focused on the implementation of the 5 pillars of the authority. These pillars are governance and institutional capacity building of the institution, social welfare, health, culture, arts and education. Thirdly, wealth creation, economic advancement. Fourthly, genocide and restorative justice. Fifthly, stakeholder relations and community engagement. These are the key pillars that will characterize my leadership, and we shall remain focused on those despite the challenges that are being thrown in our ways. And we are also aware of the external forces that are trying to destabilize the OTA. These forces are trying to install a leader within the organization that will be agreeable to the sellout joint declaration of the two governments, and that leader then be forced upon the Wahereros at the expense of the Nama and Herero people the world over.
During the press conference, Mushinde Kashiwa indicated that the Overherero Chief Council appointed him as the new leader in March this year, following the death of Vekwi Rukoro in June 2021. According to media reports, Vipwira Kapuo disputes Professor Kachiwa as a paramount chief and approached the courts against his recognition. Kapuo also recently wrote to Urban and Rural Development Minister Erastus Utoni against recognizing Kashiwa.
The role of commemoration, the access to the shrines is done through the traditional authority, and usually then we would request commando number one, as we do, and all other members of the red flag or green flags or yellow red flags, white flags to come in their regalia, as we all shall do. So that process is assured to be smooth and without interruption.
The Overherero Traditional Authority's deputy stakeholder engager, Rirwa Komeheke, stated that the inauguration of the paramount chief signifies the direction of the Overherero community.
Very important an event to take place in Okahanja. It is a culmination of all the storms that we went through since the passing on of Paramount Chief, the absence of the vacuum that was created by Paramount Chief Vekwi Rukoro. You English people will say, may he so rest in peace. Shero, we don't say that. So, but if you want the directionless, realm that ensued, that income, that we have experienced since the passing on. So now that we are inaugurating a paramount chief, everything else is settling down. The led are getting it now that, oh yes, now we have a paramount chief. Now let's start put the hands on the wheels. Let's start working. Let's start keeping the paramount chief busy. Let's start keeping the chiefs of the traditional authority busy. And the storm is over now, like they would sing in their songs. The storm is actually over now. Now we have a direction. We have 5 pillars on which the paramount chieftaincy is going to lead Overherero nation, and definitely the very important thing is that everybody and everywhere in the world, without leadership, people slowly go nowhere. So now there is a leadership, there's a head of the leadership, and now we are going somewhere with this. So that's why I submit respectfully that it is very, very important that once and for all we have a paramount chief.
The commemoration aims to rebuild family ties, Overherero dignity and culture, and also to celebrate heroes and heroines.
Mpaka tuyadha otuli pamwe nangoe mompombo mainyanyudho otse ea mukuru okuzangenea totere mombo omaovigali nipweigiyali omrunga radio ogwakala nokukundaneka okunyanyudha nokuyakuroshiwani omrunga radio yotango monamibia.
The Ministry of Trade and Industrialization and the Namibia Trade Forum engaged informal traders at the Soweto market in Katutura about the Buy Local, Grow Namibia campaign week. The purpose of the engagement was to get an understanding about challenges faced by informal traders and provide assistance through the Buy Local, Grow Namibia campaign.
Community Voices proudly brought to you by Namdeb Diamond Corporation. Good today, better tomorrow.
Minister Lucia Ipumbu at the engagement said the informal sector is currently the biggest investor in the Namibian economy, adding that the 56% contribution of the country's workforce indicates the potential that lies in the sector.
As we are speaking today, COVID is still with us, but the biggest challenge we are experiencing now is the Russian-Ukraine war that had a very negative impact on our livelihood because it pushed up the cost price of the items, especially the consumable. When we look at prices today, they have escalated to a level that we are not able to afford the basic commodities that we need in our households and the basic goods and services. We therefore need to embrace and consume what we produce locally because it's reasonable in terms of the cost. It does not require transport and shipment cost, and it makes us produce more because once we ensure that we have to procure it locally, it stimulates our producers to go and do more because they have a market. The informal sector is therefore at the backbone of the economic stimulation that we're talking about. And as such, I want to ensure that this campaign should make it possible for us to support our partners, and we must look forward to engage with other partners outside the country and within the borders of this country.
Secretary General of the Namibia Informal Sector Organization raised issues of concern to informal traders, such as differences between the government and the informal traders, further calling for an enabling environment for the informal economy to have linkages with the formal economy.
Going around, I discover a lot of things, that there is always a difference between those who are in our offices and the traders. And also the traders on the other side, being the one electing their leaders, they feel that they have to also talk to their leaders. But while at the same time also those who are trusted in these offices also feel that the traders have to do things in a certain way, and while also not looking at the capacity of the traders. Through discussion on this code of conduct, the draft operational guidelines, I came to see that, instead of putting forward policies first, whatever we suggest to our communities, what is more needed is more of consult. We need to consult and let people participate, and we need to first understand them before we go into a second platform where we go at a level of implementation. But in this country, what I notice, even when it comes to municipal bylaws, is that we have consultants doing the work. We consult here and there, and then we take it off, and that is not the right way.
Stacey Pinto, Chief Executive Officer of the Namibia Trade Forum, acknowledged and urged the informal traders of Soweto Market to approach the forum or the Trade Ministry with whatever challenges they may be facing, as the two are there to assist.
For me, it's one person sitting here, but you're representing your families, you're representing your communities, and they matter so much to us. The work that you're doing, you might think it's just for you and your small business, but it's actually for the whole Namibia, and we want to say thank you. I want you to feel honored and special today, because for us, this is not just about calling the minister and officials. We are here because we understand what you do, and we want to help you to do what you do better. I want the name of the Namibia Trade Forum and the Ministry of Industrialization and Trade to be something that you know, not only know, but remember that you can always come to us.
The Ministry of Industrialization and Trade through the Namibia Trade Forum in 2021 launched the hallmark second phase of the Buy Local Grow Namibia campaign, with the main objectives to encourage growth at home through increased consumption of local goods and services, for economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, and to stimulate the local economy and create employment for Namibians.
Community Voices proudly brought to you by Namdeb Diamond Corporation. Good today, better tomorrow.
Choose boldness and celebrate the skin you're in with Nivea Rich Nourishing. Our triple layered care of deep moisture serum, natural almond oil, and vitamin E enriches your skin for 48 hours. It's time to show off your best skin. Choose to wear your skin with pride with Nivea Rich Nourishing.
We never thought that this would actually happen in our country, especially for the youth. Everyone wants to play soccer now because of the obsolete.
A refrigerator, a valuable appliance that keeps food, drinks and medicine cold, is sometimes taken for granted by its users. Refrigeration is at the very heart of our modern lives and enables us to travel, work comfortably and, most importantly, save lives. These sentiments were shared during the World Refrigeration Day held in the capital recently.
Refrigeration plays an important role in our lives. It is a valuable appliance used in our daily lives at home, retail, work and hospitals. Refrigeration keeps food fresh and safe to consume. It also keeps vaccines, and in instances of death, it keeps bodies in the mortuary cool. The importance of refrigeration was reiterated during the World Refrigeration Day, which was recently celebrated at the Windhoek Vocational Training Center in the capital. This year, the event was celebrated under the theme Cooling Matters. The event is celebrated annually on the 26th of June, which is an international awareness campaign day established by the World Refrigeration Days Secretariat. Parastus Nepolo, the president of Heat and Ventilation Association Cooling of Namibia, explained the role of refrigeration, especially during the COVID-19 outbreak. Nepolo is a graduate from WVTC in air conditioning and refrigeration.
During COVID, definitely, I believe most of the medications, COVID medications that been transported all over the world, has to be transported into a certain required temperature. And without us, refrigeration experts, or without the refrigeration sector, there was not any possible that those medication could be transported. And the patients at all the time has to be accommodated at a certain acceptable weather so that they can recover quickly. You cannot do anything much without that room being air conditioned and that room adjusted to a patient requirement temperature. And those, the frontliner, those of nurses and doctors, if then they fail to manage a patient's disease in whatever circumstances, unfortunately that patient will go to perish, because all of us will perish anyway, one day. Or will die anyway one day, to make it very simple. But when a person is passed on in the hospital, where will those bodies stored? in the room called mortuary. We are the one that are constructing those mortuaries and maintaining them. And the retail industry, that's off. Now the like of Pick and Pay, ShopRite, even Coca-Cola, Namibia breweries, their products need to be stored in the cooling systems that are set at the required temperature so that human beings can consume them safely. Because food and drinks must be safe before a human being or person consume them. Otherwise they become poison.
The Ministry of Industrialization and Trade head of the National Ozone Unit, Amalia Nangolo, said cooling importance is sometimes taken for granted by the government, users and the public. Nangolo emphasizes that refrigeration has many significant contributions to society with direct connection to our livelihood, health and nutrition and environmental protection.
Besides its main purpose of keeping food fresh and safe and keeping vaccines safe, your refrigerator can also be an agent of change to help solve environmental challenges such as preserving the Earth's ozone layer, fighting climate change, promoting energy efficiency. You may not recognize it, but the refrigerator or the freezer in your house or your favorite restaurant is a superstar that has a huge impact far beyond the kitchen. Reducing food waste and related greenhouse gas emissions in the processing, transportation, storage, and retail display of cold food by expanding and improving access to energy-efficient, low global warming potential technology.
Nepolo further encouraged aspiring students to take up studies in refrigeration and air conditioning. He advised trainees not to waste time but to complete their courses because they are valuable to the sector and not only to Namibia but the whole continent.
Choose boldness and celebrate the skin you're in with Nivea Rich Nourishing. Our triple layered care of deep moisture serum, natural almond oil, and vitamin E enriches your skin for 48 hours. It's time to show off your best skin. Choose to wear your skin with pride with Nivea Rich Nourishing.
There are different types of decisions, such as rational, habitual, impulsive, and coin tossing.
Let's get started.
The consumption of poultry containing food poisoning organisms such as salmonella, but the danger to health can be dramatically reduced.
What about other organisms in the animal kingdom? Well, some animals are ectothermic.
Welcome to Lesson 5 for Grade 10 and 11 Mathematics.
Methodologies and approaches in order to produce relevant and suitable results.
The Deputy Director of Forest Management in the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism calls for more collaboration between communities and authorities in protecting Namibia's forest resources. This comes after an increase in reports of Namibian timber being illegally harvested and exported due to growing global demand.
Forest Management Deputy Director Philemon Kayofa said that farmers and community members should assist authorities in protecting Namibia's forests and should refrain from using their land permits to harvest timber to sell to Chinese nationals in their regions. Kayofa made these remarks during a roundtable discussion in Windhoek that focused on promoting sustainable forest management in the Kavango-Zambezi regions.
The other thing is also the Chinese business. It's true, that's why I said only in the past 5 years where we have seen that the demand for timber is very high, especially to the Asia, China, Singapore, Vietnam, those countries. But the other thing is that these Chinese, they are not the one to harvest. They are not the one harvesting. Whether it's illegal or legal, they are not the one harvesting. Because in 2018, there was a demand from farmers in the scale farming unit in Kavango. They come to our office requesting to be given permits to harvest. We did some brief assessment to see the availability of trees in those areas. Then we issued them permits. Those farmers, they sell trees to the Chinese, 300 per tree, which we didn't know. We only realized that there's a higher quantity of timber going outside the country. So what I'm saying here is that we need to work together as Namibians, because we are the one who are really causing this deforestation. We cannot blame Chinese. Maybe we can blame them because they are exporting, but we are the ones selling our trees, our resources to the Chinese. If we don't sell, Chinese will not get these trees. And we are not even doing it in a sustainable manner. For example, we used to issue, for example, 100 trees to be harvested. These people, they harvest more than that. But just to sell the Chinese.
Kayofa added that poaching is not only illegal harvesting by foreigners, but also by locals who believe that it is their right to utilize the forest in an unsustainable manner and without regard for any laws.
So we have an office in all the regions. On average, it might be 3 per region. It can be 3, it can be 2, or some of them we have even 5. And those officers, they are trained to do all the activities related to forestry. Whether it's patrol or tree planting, whatever. The officers are there. But still, we are not enough. But they are there to do the work. For example, I presented here how many timber we have confiscated. They were confiscated because of our officers in the regions. And the couplets, some of them were fined. But if you see some timber lying there so long, because it might be that the timber is a court case. But if there's no court case, the Ministry of Works normally every year they have a program of auction. So we do auction those confiscated material if there are no court cases.
The Deputy Director said it is due to a lack of coordination between officials and traditional authorities that it becomes difficult to hold individuals accountable who harvest and export forest resources such as timber, charcoal and devil's claw without fear of consequence. Kayofa said the ministry will soon start tree planting projects in the communities in order to encourage reforestation of Namibian forests.
Win free airtime with Learn on One. Tell us what's your favorite subject on Learn on One and win $50 airtime. SMS your answer, name, age, and the town you live in to 555. Standard T's and C's and SMS rates apply. Learn on One. Invite learning in.
In other leading stories, the National Energy Fund will fork out $142 million to cover the entirety of the under-recoveries recorded for the month of June on behalf of fuel consumers through the Fuel Equalization Levy. The Ministry of Mines and Energy said this on Thursday as it officially announced fuel price increases which already came into effect on the 6th of June. They further said that they recorded huge under-recoveries on petrol and diesel, mainly due to increases in prices per barrel and the cost of shipping oil. Other factors include the slight currency appreciation, which has a very minimal effect on the import parity price calculations. They also said that the high prices recorded in recent weeks and months globally probably signifies the peak of the global crisis in the oil market and that more positive developments are expected soon. Although the deep fears of a global economic recession are also looming in the background. Adjustments for the fuel prices were made to ensure pricing equilibrium in both the local and international markets. Petrol was increased by $1.88. Petrol was increased by $1.88, bringing the new prices to $22.28 per liter. While diesel was increased by $1.34 per liter, bringing the price to $22.77 per liter. These are the fuel prices for all Fish Bay. As for the rest of the country, prices will be adjusted accordingly. The ministry also informed the public that since the situation in the oil market seems not to be improving, they are currently exploring various alternative fuel procurement strategies for Namibia to stabilize the fuel prices in the country.
In 1 year's time, I fully expect to see drones delivering medicine.
This is a lifesaver, right? Because anything could happen.
That's not really the reason that any of us are kind of here. It's the fact that you actually have the ability to give people something that they really value.
I think that the solutions that have to be delivered for Africa have to be developed by Africa itself, okay? And these are solutions that have taken the context of Africa.
It's Africans to change Africa. It's us Kenyans to do something. So I'm just doing something.
This is an opportunity for now young people to get accreditation with international training institutions and be able to say, I can offer you virtual classes here.
Up next is Joseph Shifeni with Business on One and the economic indicators.
Business on One is proudly brought to you by the Government Institutions Pension Fund.
Welcome to this evening's edition of Business on One. Startup Namibia is a joint initiative between the Namibian and German governments aimed at supporting local startups by funding their ideas and enhancing conditions that enable them to grow. The project has currently brought together over 400 startups from selected regions around the country to offer funding and business support. The head of business development at Startup Namibia, Jesiah Hano Oshike, explained that the project provides entrepreneurship programs to startups and gets them to a point where they can utilize their skills within Namibia as well as outside the borders of the country.
What we do at Startup Namibia is to provide mostly entrepreneurship programs towards startups and to get them to a point where they are able to hopefully scale within Namibia and outside the borders of Namibia, and also, just help them with attracting funding, as well as give them opportunities for business coaching and mentorship, and potentially also market access. We have also focused on programs which are basically dedicated in entrepreneurship training, which lasts anywhere between 1 month and 2 months. We have had over 400 entrepreneurs go through those programs, and the best of them, we provide some funding. We call pre-seed funding. Like the entrepreneurs that are with me today, their business is received 5,000 euros. But in total, of the startups we've supported, they have acquired additional funding of about 295 million Namibian dollars. So I think we've done decently well in terms of assisting Namibian businesses.
He added that Startup Namibia exists to help Namibian young startup entrepreneurs. Some of the young entrepreneurs had this to say regarding their businesses and being part of the project.
You buy these pads, you are not going to go back to the shop again because they last for a period of 3 years. And they will save you money. And the current products that we have in the market are disposable. And ours are not disposable, so you use them and you wash them and you can use them again. So that's why I'm saying they are cost effective, they're sustainable, and they're environmental friendly. So the current disposable pads in the market, they really just occupy the landfill, but ours, you keep them. And that's also mean that we are giving you a clean environment. We offer you a clean environment as clients.
Peto Medical Practice is bringing clinical trials to Namibia. So this is basically giving an opportunity to willing participants to partake in clinical research. We have this. It's part of the medical aesthetics service that we offer. It's basically health supplements that help with general overall health related to a patient, gut health, strengthening joints, muscles, skin, hair, nails. That was a formulation done by me and a local pharmaceutical lab, just to come up with these supplementations to add on to the different treatments that we have on the market for our population.
What Vision does is we provide creative solutions for anyone that is trying to express ideas or innovations. So how I always like to explain our business is, imagine a young boy coming from Namibia, and he has this unique idea or business plan or an innovation that might change the world, change Namibia, change Africa, and he's looking for sponsors or someone to sort of help him with funding. But he struggles to communicate this idea because it's so vast, it's so unique. To him, I would say, come to Vision, because we take that idea and expand it, and we try to explain it by a visual means, so by images or videos. And we all know a lot of us work better when we can see something tangible. So that's basically our business in a nutshell. We express that idea and innovation in an image, in a picture.
Startup Namibia is a joint Namibian-German technical cooperation project for sustainable economic development being implemented by the German Development Agency, GIZ, with the Namibian Ministry of Trade and Industrialization, the Ministry of Higher Education, and the City of Windhoek.
Business on One was proudly brought to you by the Government Institutions Pension Fund.
And that is all we have for you. Be sure to follow us on our social media pages for more on the business front.
The Namibia Economic Freedom Fighters Deputy President Longinus Kalimbo Ipumbu says the government does not have a substantive case against fellow party member Michael Mushelelo and affirmative repositioning movement activist Dimbulukeni Nauyoma. Ipumbu claimed the court case is a waste of state resources. Peter said the evidence they're looking for can be manipulated. Manuel said the NEFF leader should not politicize everything. Ramsey said it seems the aim is to punish the accused indirectly. Amuchira says the ruling party is in control. Jacob says those in jail were arrested for saying that Chinese shops are selling counterfeit goods. Carol says the Chinese government is in charge since they are owed billions by the local government. And that's it from Comments Corner. Be sure to engage on our stories on our social media pages for broadcast only on Today on One.
Honestly, I've never been so anxious to flip a card.
In your whole life?
My whole entire life. I think it's because I'm probably used to Like I must
you used to be having the information in
advance. You know? I'm like, I know what I'm gonna ask her more. Now I'm on the other side and I'm just like, so can we just and I can't flip the card up until it's my turn, right?
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation.
I think for me, art is important.
Ooh.
Art is everything. But I think first of all, it's important.
I think again, it's about being a nice person, isn't it? Just because somebody's being nasty to you on the road, or you don't necessarily have to be the same as them.
Boys were told you needed to have X, Y, and Z. Like at school
By
already,
this
they're telling
age,
you
what do you want to be. You're like, I don't even know what I'm now. I'm going to know what I'm then.
I like football.
Relax. Let me just get through today.
This is a nice question.
Okay. Is it about?
No, I wish it was. I wish it was about, but it's not.
Castro Lumbu is up next to tell us more about the world of sports.
Welcome to Sports on One. I'm your host, Castro Lumbu. Having a strong mental health is essential for any athlete to succeed in sports. Sports on One spoke to sports psychologist Jürgen Hoffmann, who focuses on mental health wellness, as he touched on the importance and benefits of a sports psychologist to an athlete. Today on One Sports has more on this story. In line with the upcoming international competitions where Namibian athletes will be partaking, Sports on One sat with 57-year-old Jürgen Hoffmann, who highlighted the importance of a sports psychologist. Hoffmann was part of the delegation that accompanied Team Namibia to the Rio 2016 Olympic Games, which took place in Brazil as a medical personnel.
There we have now certain phenomena that work onto your mental structure as well. So if this kind of performance pressure comes in, there are certain mental structures that start to move. And when the mental structures are starting to move, it will also affect our performance, because our mind and body it's not separate from each other, so the one will affect the other. And the sports psychology tries to find that balance, that whatever is coming onto you will not affect the ability to perform optimally. It doesn't mean that you can now, through sports psychology, do better than what you typically would do. It will still it still remains on your underlying preparation. That is the core. It is just then fine-tuning to bring what you can deliver to the point when you need to deliver it. Usually, if you look at the top performing countries in big major events like the Olympics, like World Championships, like Commonwealth Games, which we have now, you will find that they always travel with a sport psychologist, and the sport psychologist, he has a dual role. That means at the one point, the work with the athlete goes on. Usually, you have your own group of athletes that you support during that time. But then it goes also about the team cohesion. There are new factors that come in. And that is usually the role of the sport psychologist to look what is the status of the athletes. He's usually, or she is usually entirely in contact with them on a daily basis. And they usually have indefinite time slots or access to the psychologist.
In addition, Hoffmann has advised athletes to start with mental checkups from an early age before turning professional.
I think what needs to be seen is that sport psychology or mental coaching is not a magical fix. You still need to do everything else, and that will then just help you to balance that. And it's also not good to only leave it up to the big kind of tournaments. So there needs to be a relationship between the athlete and the sports psychologist, so that there is a certain amount of trust that has been generated between the two, and that there's also, there are no barriers in communication, so that you can get directly to the point, so you don't have to figure out certain things. So direct communication lines depend on that. And if that can be achieved, I think the sports team has a very good addition in actually achieving what they can. Very often they perform well before, but in big tournaments they don't deliver up to what the expectation is, and that can change. Usually you try to establish the whole aspect of mental structure with an athlete before they are 18 years old. So this is the time where you need to do the most groundwork. So by the time they go into more professional modes, up to 18, it's still junior, it's still finding your feet, it's developing your skill base. But the serious stuff usually goes beyond that. And often we burn out the athlete before they reach 18 because we use mechanisms and techniques that are not conducive for a sustainable kind of performance over time. So that is what one would like to have. And then, of course, the access to the mind coach or to the sports psychologist will then depend on the emotional fabric of the athlete.
Jürgen Hoffman boasts 9 years experience as a sports psychologist. Thank you for watching. Catch us again tomorrow for Sports on One. Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages for more updates on the sports front.
Thank you, Castro. Now let's have a look at the weather forecast.
A look at the weather forecast, but first an advisory from the Windhoek Met office. Hot to very hot temperatures with windy conditions are to be expected over the coastal areas only for tomorrow. The interior will be cool at first, otherwise sunny and warm to hot. The coast, partly cloudy and warm to hot. The wind, moderate to fresh northeasterly at first, becoming southwesterly later. Now a look at the minimum and maximum temperatures around the country and beyond.
We've come to the end of tonight's edition of Today on One. Please don't forget to follow us on our social media pages for more updates. From me, Isai Sipunga, and the rest of the team, it's good night.
The International University of Management, a Namibian university dedicated to its people's future, a hub of abundant opportunities.
We are IUM for life. We are IUM.
It's not a race. It's an adventure. It's this epic thing that you get to do. You get to run an unbelievable distance in a place that's almost untouched. And we've been able to, in 7 days, travel the entire country and stay at some of the most beautiful lodges. We've had an exquisite rainy season. There's very few people who've seen the country ever in their lifetime the way it is right now. It's mind-blowing. I've been running for about 8 years, ultra. I like to push hard and run far and do things that the average person doesn't do. For many years, I've wanted to do the 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. And when COVID happened, it became very clear that that was never going to happen for us. Travel, international races, it was all just taken away from us. So suddenly you have these people who are living for running, who are living for traveling, and now there's nothing. Caletso phones me the one day and says, you know, he thinks maybe we should actually make this work. Him and I have been talking for about 4 years about it and how much we'd love to do this. He says, let's do it in Namibia. Now I need to find people to come along with me because this is not a simple thing to do. You need somebody who's willing to run almost 300 kilometers in 7 days. How do you train for that? And I put on Facebook, and the next thing you know, people are contacting, can they come along? And
I'm Marisa Dreyer. Like I said, I'm from Windhoek and I've always loved running. I initially saw Kirsty's Facebook post and I immediately phoned her and said, please put me on your list because this is exactly the kind of event which I love.
Well, I've been running for basically as long as I've been alive. I've run basically every continent, I think, except the Americas. This was fun. This is the most fun I've had in all the races that I've ever done.
My name is Joey Shihama, an ultra-marathon runner. I got an email actually from Kirsty. I said, yes, Kirsty, it's a challenge, so I'm up for it.
Ordinarily, when you do a marathon, you're done and you go home, you rest, and it's lacquer. Now we have to go home, get our things ready, and tomorrow morning you got to get up and do it again. Mentally, it's been unbelievably difficult. The terrain obviously changes. So for example, when we were at the Cannon Lodge, you couldn't run very far because the sand was so thick. So then you start negotiating with yourself. So mentally, you have to push yourself because honestly, your body can do it. You know, if you train like we train, your body can do it. The physical part hasn't been the hardest, but man, your head. I've been blown away just by the support. The staff was suddenly running with us.
It was the most beautiful scenery. It was just magic, you know, running through those hills. You were mostly alone.
I love Kleinhaus Vista. It's so unlike what I'm used to from Swakop. Over mountains and it's fast and it's, you know, very challenging and it's exciting.
My favorite part was getting lost on Pitt's Mountain. That will go down in history.
The Kleinhaus Vista was the most difficult one. I took the wrong route, but also made it to the 49-kilometer mark.
But I like the way how the team came together and we all found each other with no network, but everything worked out well. I think that's the worst case scenario and we shone through it.
I think the most difficult part is to get up every day and restart the challenge. It's not like you can do it every day in the same headspace. Some days are obviously hard and some days are easier. I think it comes quite naturally if you have a passion for running.
Wherever I was explaining things to people on Facebook and on social media and things, I said, geez, today was tough, eh? But oh, my stack is beautiful. You know, how lucky are we?
My favorite terrain to run is the Namib Desert.
I've been very surprised at how well my body is handled. You know, you kind of run, your body knows what it's doing. It just keeps going because we're not racing, we're not pushing to our maximum at any stage. I mean, we've been incredible terrain, but we've not been pushing that hard. Support obviously is very special. These messages coming from people talking about what an inspiration it is. And that was never what we were intending to do. We were a couple of runners who wanted to go and do something friggin' awesome. And suddenly people are coming and saying, I've never run, but I'm seeing what you guys are doing, now I want to run. You know, that's what it is.
My favorite part of this experience was the people that kept us going, that kept us supporting us on the road. And my favorite part of the marathon was also in the Soccer Moon, where everybody came out to support us, and all the Soccer Moon people came out. So
what a surprise!
Summerland, we struggled because there'd been a lot of rain and the grass, and the terrain was completely different to when I actually came ahead of the time and did the runs there and worked out the loops. Everything was suddenly different from the rain. So there's grass, you can't see the trails anymore. To do loops is always going to be difficult, especially on day 6 of 7 marathons. So mentally, Summerland, it was very tough for me.
The most difficult part was waking up at 5 a.m. and thinking, okay, I'm going to run another 42. But the minute we started, you know, the scenery just like makes you forget what you did yesterday.
Today was tough because we were on the tar road, but that was unfortunately something we had to do. It was a safety issue, and that's something that it's a non-negotiable. You know, if at all times our #1 priority has been to keep our runners safe. So when it came down to the grass is too high, there's loads of snakes, we could not allow for a dangerous environment for one of our runners. Okay, so it was a decision. But when you've been running 6 marathons on beautiful soft terrain, which is what it is when you off-road, and then you hit tar. Man, our knees today, our bodies were. So I think yesterday and today were probably the harder of the lot.
The last part was the most difficult part. I almost gave up at 31 kilometers. And then I thought of not giving up because I know where I started this.
No, it was even better than I expected or would I have imagined. And yes, we finished today, and it was an absolute highlight of my year this far, actually for the past 2 years.
So it's just been, man, it's just next level. Everything that we've been through over this last 7 days is just insane.
It was a wonderful experience, and I would love everybody to join and to come take part of it.
The stories about Gondwana 7, the marathon series, are insane. Risa would run a sub-4 every day. And there's Joe, who managed to do 6 out of 7 marathons with a busted knee. And Kirsty is the wild one. She led the group out into a rocky desert with no water, 20 kilometers off course. You know what? Maybe you should call these guys the Fab Four. They have different strengths, but together they make great music. We're rock stars, man. And we got the stones to prove it.
You know, the distance means nothing, but where we've been and what we've seen